Welcome to the Deployed Podcast, where strategy, ideas, and capital come to life.
Awesome, guys. Hey, welcome to another episode of Deployed. Thank you for being here. For those who don't know me, my name is Michael Kearse. I'm a real estate investor and founder of Ameripath USA Debt Fund. Over the last several years, I've helped investors deploy millions into affordable real estate that creates consistent, secure returns while helping families across the country achieve home ownership. I created Deploy because I realized everyone has capital, right? Whether it be money, knowledge, relationships, but few deploy it intentionally. This show is all about the art and science of deployment and how high performers turn potential into power. Today, my guest is David Denver, creator of the educational platform Mind Management Academy that helps individuals reclaim their time. David, how do you usually introduce what you do to people who don't know you or know your world?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So, I help founders and entrepreneurs master their time so they execute consistently and grow faster, right?
Okay.
A lot of times when founders are looking to solve a problem and find a solution to it, it generally comes down to two things: time or money, right? And money is in abundance. Time is finite. You can always make more money. You can't make more time. And
Absolutely.
so for me, been an entrepreneur for quite some time now. And, I've interviewed and spoken to over, 1,000 entrepreneurs. And that's really how I came up with the framework, was understanding like, okay, with all these founders and people that I spoke to, the quicker they can get something done, the more they're willing to invest in that problem to bring to a solution.
Man, you're so right. That was one of the things that I didn't realize once I got into entrepreneurship. Just to give you a quick background context, I would say over the last 10 to 15 years, I had to do so much in changing the way I thought when it came around finances, entrepreneurship, and money. And it was a result of me just reading wealth building books that I noticed that my mindset changed. And to your point, one of the things that I quickly understood and started to realize is that time is finite, and that is the most precious resource and asset.
Mhm.
So I loved how you positioned that. So when did you first realize that you were onto something bigger than yourself, interviewing all those entrepreneurs?
That's a good question. I think, to be honest, it kind of happened. It wasn't like, how do I say? It wasn't like deliberately interviewing them, right? Because I've, created multiple companies over my, tenure of being an entrepreneur. I started my first company June 21st, 2016. So that's the summer solstice. Throughout that time, my first company, I remember, I had an entertainment company, had released, within the first 4 years, released over like 180 records or something like that. And
Wow.
like it grew very, very quickly. So I'm talking to all these entrepreneurs and business owners and, and just really finding a string that connected all of them. And all of them, it just was like my time, right? Like that's what it came down to. And so I've also always just been fascinated with time as well. Just like, because you have linear time, you have Chronos time, and I won't get too deep into it or too esoteric with it. But really, like, if you think about the time on our planet, the time on our planet Earth is only relevant to our distance from our sun. 24 hours here, 24 hours on Mars or Pluto, on another place in the universe. So, when people say time is a construct, that is the part that is time is a construct. But when you think about Chronos time, which is like all time, right? That's not a construct. That is a thing, and we get a piece of that. We get to experience a piece of that, right? And I just realized I was onto something, man, when I had a framework. When I first started my businesses and really became an entrepreneur, I knew that my secret power, my superpower was organization, systems, being able to execute 2 to 3 times as quicker as my competition. Yeah, especially growing up in New York, right? Like New Yorkers naturally move quicker than the rest of America, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I want to go back for a second, right? Before all the wins, who were you before this version of success showed up?
Oh man,
Don't be shy.
who was I? You got to give me some more context, man.
Okay. What were some of the early struggles that shaped you today?
That's a good question. I think, my mom being an immigrant, my mother came here when she was 21 years young, from the Caribbean and, raised me as a single mother, a lot of trial and tribulation growing up in New York and, having to find myself and, just knowing that I was meant and I am meant for something greater than my environment, and I've just always known it in my spirit. Like we were talking a little bit earlier off camera, where it's like there's just an internal knowing that I've always had, and it's become a lot more clear, and the metric also, you mentioned success is like the metric of success has also changed over the years as well, right? Like what that looks like, because, a lot of people's metric of success is wealth or, having external things. Whereas to me, wealth and success really come from the internal. Like what's going on with my internal homeostasis? Am I good with me when I wake up in the morning? Right? Is my relationship with my family, my friends, my loved ones, are those things good? And if they are, okay, then I can start really focusing on the external. So, yeah, to be honest with you, man, a go getter for sure. I'll be getting to it, man. Like I've always been a go getter, a community organizer. I've always loved bringing people together. That's one of, my strengths, right? Because as an entrepreneur, I think the most important thing is to understand, what comes easy to you and difficult to others, right? And that there's certain things that have come easy to me and difficult to others where I've created a solution to help people with a problem in that area.
I love how you position that last part. So, recently, I have a 16-year-old son. He's my oldest, sophomore in college, and he just doesn't seem as motivated as most children his age, especially when we talk about what you want to do with the rest of your life, going to college, going to schools, and things like that. Whereas my daughter, she's 14, freshman, succeeding in athletics, right? She just seems like she knows exactly what she wants to do. My wife gets on me a little bit. She gets a little nervous. We got to talk to him. We got to get on him. I take him through an exercise from a book called it's the Psychology of Success.
Mm.
It's either called the 12 Psychology, but Psychology of Success. Anyway, there's a section in that book that really takes you through a questionnaire to help you realize what you're good at that others aren't. What are your hidden talents? With the theory, which I believe in, is that if you're good at something, usually that will lead into something that you're interested in because you're good at it. And then how do you use those special skills and traits and natural talents that you naturally have to either become an entrepreneur, or what career field would you be good at? And so I took him through this exercise. It was cool. And I seen him kind of light up to start to understand, like, wow, okay. And say, hey, listen, MJ, right? Michael Jr. Now that you kind of know, like, these are the things that you're good at, here are some possible career choices that you would definitely succeed at with your natural talents.
Mhm.
And here are some colleges that you could probably do well at that really cater towards these subjects. So I have a tattoo actually called, knowledge of self is the key to success, right?
Mhm.
And like you early on, that was what I was in search for, right? If I just felt this, if I know who I am and I know my talents, I can see what my superpowers are, right? So that's awesome that you share that. Thank you for that. Was there a defining failure or turning point that forced you to evolve?
Yeah, real quick, I just want to mention that I think the Psychology of Success, is that Brian Tracy?
He does have a talk called The Psychology of Success, but this one is by like a Michael Mohart. It's not near me, but I'll make sure I
Yeah.
share it with you
Yeah,
before the end of the
'cause
training.
I think I've seen it, but I haven't read it. I would definitely would love to check that out. I'm actually reading right now, reading it again, the 12-week year, and
Okay,
got the workbook as well. This is a really good one.
nice.
Yeah, I got it a year ago. Really helped impact my year last year. So I'm like, let's get back to the things that worked, right?
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
Yep. And then, yeah, you mentioned the tattoo. This one's pretty intense. But and someone recently told me that they're like, that's actually intense, and so I've kind of adopted that, if you will. But when I was 17, I got a tattoo of a clock in the palm of my hand, and that's actually that was actually the genesis of the framework that I teach my students and my clients right now. And, it was also just a reminder that like my time, I have an expiration date on this planet one day. And, I had a mentor also tell me early on, he's like, when you move in life, like think with the end in mind, like what people are going to say at your eulogy, and then work backwards, you know? And so with these different ideologies of time, it just made it very clear to me, like that this tattoo to me represents that time is infinite. And in that, my time here is finite. So don't play with it. Be mindful with how you invest it, right? Because when you spend, you end. So when I'm with people, it's like I'm investing time with them. Like we're investing time with one another right now, right? I don't spend my time. I don't spend my money. Like if it's not an investment, then I'm not doing it, because an investment is something that yields greater over time, whereas spending it ends right there. So, I love
I
that
like that.
and then I got a compass on the right hand. So it's like time and place, right? Just knowing where, you know, move and who to move with and how much time to invest with that or not. So yeah, so I just want to kind of preface that. And so you mentioned a defining failure. Is that was
Yeah.
that
What was there a defining failure or a turning point that forced you to evolve?
man, I'm gonna just be transparent, man, because I think this is part of my growth this year and just kind of growing. Like I used to be in the streets, man, out of survival though. I want to be clear, right? Out of survival and necessity, not wanting to just be like in the mix,
Right. Right.
And I don't glorify it. It's not a part of myself that I talk about much, but I think we have a great vibe here and it's the top of the year. Why not?
Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've come a long way. Lord knows I've come a long way. And record clean, straight up. Shout out to the most high. You know what I'm saying? Like Jay-Z said, I got out the dope game with my record clean for real. Like, straight up, man. Like, and I'm grateful for that though. Like I look back at it now and, I thank myself for going through what I went through because I learned a lot about myself, a lot about other human beings, a lot about human psychology. I learned a lot about providing value, making sure people got what it is that they expected. And, it has translated over into how I build businesses and how I even invest, right? Like what I say no to and what I say yes to, understanding the value of long-term versus short-term, right? Like one of the things I teach my students is like sight versus vision. One of my favorite Nipsey Hussle lines, he's like, a lot of y'all can't even see past your nose,
Mm,
It's like, I'm a visionary. And so I'm always thinking long term. And so
hmm
I would say, I don't want to call it a failure. Um, but because I believe you only fail when you don't learn or you die.
mm. I like it. I like
Because
it.
when I look at all of my quote unquote failures, like they were lessons in disguise, of what not to do. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Don't do that. I had a mentor tell me once, he was like, when you look at 100% of your friends or the people around you, your colleagues, 33% should be people that are your peers. Another 33% should be people you learn from. And another 33% should be examples of what not to do. And
Mm,
as the years have gone along and progressed, I've turned that into like a 70-30. Like 70% of people are like people I look up to and aspire to be like and be around. And, another 30% are my peers, people who are striving for better. I have enough examples of what not to do. I'd say another failure, man. I mean, again, it's just more of like, just being mindful of how I treat others as well. I've definitely burned some bridges in my past. Again, full vulnerability. And it's just because I've done the work around it, right? Like I don't let those experiences define who I am. I believe that true vulnerability, true strength comes from vulnerability, right? And I've definitely burnt some bridges because, lack of experience or self-doubt or overthinking or lack of action. I can overthink things sometimes, and that causes me to move slower than I should. And at the same time, being mindful to not to doubt myself, right? Because imposter syndrome is a real thing. I don't care what anybody got to say. In my experience, imposter syndrome is a real thing because there's things that have happened in my life that I'm like, whoa, like, are we really is this happening? And it's like, yeah, So that's what I'll say to that, man. No failure is just a ton of lessons.
mm, mm, thank you for sharing that and the vulnerability too. It's so much there that I can relate to, and I don't want to take up too much time because this is an interview and we want to hear more from you, the guest. But I can relate to you wholeheartedly on so many levels on what you just said over the last couple of minutes, man. With the vulnerability, not looking at things like a mistake or failures, excuse me, as a lessons learned. I always think about all of the failures that I've had are lessons that I can pass on to my seeds, to my children,
Exactly.
to tell them what not to do and learn from my experience and my mistakes
Hmm.
and the things that I've learned from. And, I look at it, I'm 44 years old, right? I'm still learning, right?
Yep.
That was my first experience at that time.
Mhm.
And had I done it over again, to your point, right? Sometimes we overthink and we don't take the action that we should have taken, right? Sometimes we hurt people that we don't intend to hurt, right? But if we learn from them and we don't repeat those same things, that doesn't define who we was or who we
Correct.
were at that point in time, right? We're always, growing. So thank you for that vulnerability. That's something that I'm working on too, to be more vulnerable and express myself. So that's awesome, man. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So you've built something incredible. You built many things. And I know success is more mindset than mechanics, right? I want to unpack how you think, and you've been doing a great job of giving us some insight. What principles or beliefs guide how you make decisions today?
That's okay. So I would say the first one is there's a few. So the first one really at the top is give attention to intention. That's number one. Give
Oh my
attention
God,
to
so
intention.
powerful.
Like, gotta move with intent, gotta move with purpose. So many people wake up and they meander through life. Their first thing they do, when they wake up, they look at Instagram. Like, they're not in control of their life. They are allowing external factors to dictate how they move in their life. And I'm not human, I'm fallible, and I'm okay with that. And at the same time, I'm mindful when I'm on my phone for more than 5 minutes. Like, again, with the time, I'm not here to look back at my life and be like, wow, we spent 30 hours on our phone this week. That is absolutely nonsense to me. It's ludicrous, honestly. Yeah, giving attention to intention. That's number one. That's something I keep at the forefront of my mind.
Powerful, powerful,
Yeah,
man. Powerful.
yeah, 100%. Like, be more intentional and give more attention to your intentions. The second one is, you know, think with it think and live with the end in mind, like I mentioned earlier. Like, what is like the end of my life look like? Because I promise you, if you start thinking about that, you move with more intention. So many people are afraid to think about things like that. And you know I'd like to live forever. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like, as long as my body's good and things, I like to live forever. I ain't tripping on that. My grandparents are in the 80s, 86 and 82. Shout out to them. I love them very much. And it's like, I know I'm gonna live a long life. And it's just a matter of being mindful of how I move, how I show up, how I'm, impacting myself, but also the people around me, my community, my environments, the conversations that I'm having. Are they high level? Are they low level? What's the vibrational frequency? And then there's one that escapes me, but it's kind of like ingrained. Like, there's so many, man, like cause when I'm teaching, it's a different than when I'm being asked questions.
Yeah,
I just be
yeah.
flowing, brother. You know what I mean?
You get in the zone because they ask you
Yeah, I
questions and
just be
stuff. I know.
flowing, man.
I just got off a coaching call. Well,
Yep,
just real quick,
yep.
one thing I want to focus on, man, that you said, like, give your intention attention.
Mhm.
Man, I love that statement, man. I'm stealing it, but I'm curious to hear, how do you do that? Right? What steps do you take to do that? Because I know what steps I take to do. I would love to hear how you make sure that you do that every day.
Yeah, so I've got two frameworks. One, it's called my Tom Compass framework. That's like my flagship, like essentially, born from the tattoos in my hand, right? Like, understanding, okay, like, I'll give it to you like this and your audience like this, right? Like, how many seconds are there in a minute?
60,
How many minutes are in an hour?
60,
How many days in a week?
7.
How many hours are in a week?
What's that? 40? Or if you count the work week,
The whole week.
the whole week. So it's at 24 times 7. Oh, you're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to bring out the calculator on you now.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's do it together.
24 times 7, 168.
Exactly. So that framework right there is like, the question I'll ask is, why were we taught all these finite measurements of time, but not taught that we have 168 hours to show up in our week every single week, right? That framework, that very framework right there, you know, allows me to look at the week holistically as opposed to just 1 second, minute, day at a time.
Or a 40-hour work week. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Right. When you think about it, a 40-hour work week, it's about a third of our week, right? Like, when you work 40, it's about a third of the amount of time that you're allotted in a week, right? Like, a lot of people don't understand the psychology. Like, when you think about a 40-hour week, you're working 8 hours a day. That's a third of your day. You're sleeping another third of your day. Where's the other third going?
Yeah. That's what mentors always ask. What are you doing those other 8 hours?
Correct. Correct. And so for me, I heard Elon Musk say this, a few weeks ago. I was watching an interview about him. He's like, I don't sleep more than 6 hours. Like, on average, it's like 6 hours. For me, it's cycles with the quarters. For me right now, it's like 4 hours. That's like, I'm okay with that. Like, 4 hours. I mean, anything more than that, I'm like, I'll go to bed at 4 and wake up at 8:30. Like it's nothing, and get to it. But the framework is understanding that 168 hours. Okay, if 40 are going to work for the average person, another 40 are going to sleep. That's 80 hours gone right there. You're left with 88 hours. So for me, every single week, when I look at that 88 hours, that's on average about 11 hours a day, right? And so I deduce the time, right? Like I'm very, very intentional with this. So I look at my 168 hours. I'm like, okay. And I break it down into 4 quarters of the compass. You have your mandatory time, the things that must happen. You have your miscellaneous time, which are the things that may or may not happen. And then you've got your mystery time. This is the time that I completely eliminate. Okay. Mystery time can look like doom scrolling, gossiping, a procrastination, selling yourself short. And then the west side of the compass is the growth time. How much time am I investing in self-development, into investing into growing my business, growing the people around me, having impactful conversations like this, right? And, taking those four quadrants, northeast, southwest, and breaking down my time accordingly and knowing
Mm.
every single one is going. So that's the first framework. And the second one, man, I've got actually, I just got this one here, but this is a daily planner. So, I mean, I wish I could pull them more, but I'd say over the past 10 years, I use a legal pad and I write down everything that's happening throughout my day before I go to bed. Like if I know something's happening next week, I'm going in and I'm putting, okay, goals for 111 through 117. And I'm putting the first thing there. I'm being intentional, right? Another one of the quotes, actually, this is what it is. Do what is difficult when it is easy. That's what I was looking for. I learned that a long time ago, but do what is difficult when it is easy. And so what that means, what that means is if I know I have a meeting with you on this day and I found out last week, I'm going into my legal pad and I'm writing that down for next week, period. Because that's when it's going to be easiest to remember right then and there. So many things happen in my day and throughout my week that I don't want to like forget, oh, wow, I got this meeting with this person tomorrow. And then I'm writing it. Now I'm not, I double booked and all of this and all of that. And it's like, no. So those are two things that help really guide, my intent with life, right? Like just again, my time compass, right? Like knowing the direction that I'm moving with my time and being intentional with it. So everything that I'm telling literally flows into one.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. So we talk a lot here about, how people deploy their capital, not just financially, as you mentioned, right? Intellectually, time, relationally. I'm curious how that looks for you. When you think of capital, what does that word mean to you?
That is a good question. And I actually heard you ask that on another one of your, I mean, all of your other episodes. Well, first and foremost, capital, when you think about just removing it from like finance, right? Like capital is like the pinnacle, like the capital of a city, right? Like that is something that holds weight, right? And when you think about even the word, money comes from the word monere, but it's really like all of finance and wealth comes from water, right? Currency,
Mm,
cash flow,
mm,
a bank, the bank of a water, you know what I mean? Like a
mm-hmm,
river bank,
mm-hmm,
you know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Cat. So all of these words, like we don't realize the impact of the etymology of these things, right? And so, right, a capital to me, it's the highest point. We think about cap, right? Like cap is like the highest point or something. So deploying capital and using it as currency is like, how are we using our energy for real, right? Because when we work, whether it's for someone else or for ourselves, we are using our inherent energy to go and grow our capital, whether it's financial, whether it's relationship, whether it's, there's so many things that could be used as capital, right? Because if you think about it, right, like money, our capital here, like our dollar is not what it is in South America or Thailand or, Dubai, right? Like
Right.
it's different. So it's a metric. So I don't want to get too far off the point here, but, even when you think about like a capital offense, right? It's the highest point. It's the pinnacle, right? So, I look at all these words, right? It's really like how money or how something at the highest use of something can be used, if you will. Like, how are you using this use, if you will? That's kind of how I see it, man. Because I think there's also, relational equity. That's one of my biggest things, right? Is like, what are the things you can exchange with people that don't necessarily involve an exchange of something physical, but having relational equity? Right. Like right now, we're building up relational equity. It's our first conversation. We're connecting with one another. We're pouring into one another. We're, sharing and things of that nature. Right. Like equity is that thing that grows long term. Right. And it's just a matter of how are we investing, the capital that we have within one another to build equity, to build relationship.
I love that, and you use the word relational equity. That's so funny because I just had another guest say the exact same thing when she talked about the relationships and the equity and how, that's a focus for them. Oh, no, excuse me. It wasn't a lady. It was a gentleman. He's in the IT space, the artificial intelligence space. And he said the exact same thing. Are there any particular opportunities that are getting your attention these days?
What do you mean?
So for me, when I think about opportunities, again, I'm a real estate investor. So it's all about, an opportunity to partner with someone that's doing recovery homes because that's closely aligned with our mission and what we want to do from, helping people with home ownership and helping people in regard to homes. Met another gentleman that's doing something around land.
Hmm.
That's another opportunity that would get my attention. Had someone approach me about building AI tools. Not really something that would get my attention, but an opportunity that I can maybe pass on to someone that I may know in my network.
Hmm.
You mentioned earlier that you were doing something around records, right?
Hmm.
And that you like bringing people together with communities. So,
Yeah.
and that you're working on that where you're intentional about your time or, that you're looking to pour in these days.
Yeah, and that's a good question, man. I mean, I think I live in so much abundance, bro. There's always so much opportunity. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, last year, a friend of mine, we started doing these opportunity calls because we just had so many opportunities that we just couldn't do them all, right? And we'd host these weekly or bi-weekly Zoom calls where we would just bring people together on Zoom and we would just share opportunities with one another. Give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, an opportunity that you have. Even when I host live events, I have what's called an ask and offer corner. Like, what's something that you need in your life or in your business? And what's something you're offering in your life or in your business? And it just, it allowed people to come up and have an offer, but also ask for support, right? I think that's part of being vulnerable. So many people don't know how to ask for what they need from whether it's trauma or, past experience or whatever it is. But it's like, opportunity. I mean, I think right now, this quarter, I've opened up Mind Management Academy, 10 seats to be able to come in and be coached and mentored and, learn how to reclaim a minimum of 30 hours of your week every single week. And regardless what you do, whether you're a 9 to 5 employee, you have a business, you're a mother, parent, civil worker, it does not matter. Like, you know,
Mm,
the framework that I've been able to come up with has allowed, one of my clients to go from literally negative 16, 7 to 102,000, like 100K in 6 months. You know,
wow.
really overall revenue generated was $120,000 um,
That's impressive.
from January to literally beginning of June. So, just really, and I'm only opening up seats for about 10 people at a time. I currently have 7 more left, because ultimately I'm doing certifications for this as well, putting people in position to be able to learn this framework and go teach it to others. Because ultimately, if you think about the biggest companies, the biggest impacts in the world, they're franchised. They teach someone else how to do what they do, and they're able to scale massively because of
Leverage.
exactly leverage and an impact as well. Right? That's kind of, not kind of, but that's how I measure my impact or my wealth is my impact on this world, and impact generates income.
Yes, it does. Yes,
So
it does.
I'd say another opportunity, I'm also a real estate investor. And, right now I've got a few properties being worked on, right before I got on this call, shout out to my team here in Atlanta. And, just we just went over like, I think, let me see here. We went over like 1, 2, 3, 5 properties that we are looking to close on or sell.
Nice.
And so, yeah, if anybody's looking for a single family or, a wellness center, or selling a fourplex, right? Like these are things that we're working on. My real estate team and I are working on right now. And I think another opportunity is AI videos, right? I have someone that is a part of my team now that is helping people in my community create AI videos for ads, right? Instead of you having to get behind a camera, some people are camera shy. He's helping them take their verbiage and their words and turn that into an AI video to go and, create ads to generate leads for their business.
That's pretty cool. I'm saying that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah, because I'm pretty well versed in digital marketing, and I can generate leads for folks up to like less than $3.58 a lead right now. That's what we're doing right now in any market. And I'm really excited about
Impressive.
matter about the market or the industry is about 358 right now. And so I'm working with him and partnering with him and connecting him with my people so that they can create better creatives and get their product and their service out there.
It's impressive, man. Yeah, we definitely got to talk online. So we have a lot of synergies. We're coming up on a time, man. I could talk with you all day, Denver. This has been a blast, man. I really appreciate you investing your time. So I want to end with a quick bonus segment. I don't do this with every person, but I think this would be interesting for you. Okay. So this is the rapid fire round, right? I'm gonna ask you about 4 or 5 questions, and I want you to just spit out the first thing that comes to mind. Cool.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Book that changed your life.
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Love it. Best investment under $500.
The stock market.
One word that defines success.
Peace before prosperity.
Who do you admire for how they deploy capital?
So many people, man. Wow. So many people. I'm going to give you top 3. So,
Okay.
Aliko Dangote, if you don't know who he is.
Yes, I do know who he is. Yes.
The guys over at Earn Your Leisure and Invest Fest. Love
Okay.
what they do. Like, they are geniuses. I don't care what anybody got to say. I champion what they do because they have changed the course of Black history, period.
Nice.
Grant Cardone, he a genius.
Uncle G, man. Uncle G.
Grant Cardone's a
Uncle
genius.
G.
And like,
Uncle G.
Because again, capital, right? Like, I think it's
Uncle
also
G.
energy, man. He waited till he reached a certain level of success and opulence and then had a family. I think a lot of people, I have that conversation with them. They're like, and I'm like, well, respectfully, that's probably why you won't be successful because you don't understand time delay for certain things.
It's not easy.
It's not.
It's one of my challenges. It's one of the challenges I have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be easy. Reaching a certain level of like, getting to a 1% of 1% is not supposed to be easy.
Right.
It's just not, because if it was, everybody would do it. I was just telling one of my kids yesterday, if everybody's a billionaire, nobody's a billionaire.
Facts. Yeah, facts. Denver, this has been awesome. Guys, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Deployed. I'm really excited, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you again for joining us.
You've been watching the Deployed podcast, where we deploy insight, capital, and growth.